There are places on this planet that feel wrong, not dangerous, not hostile, just wrong. The kind of places where the air feels heavier, where silence stretches longer than it should, where even the wind seems afraid to move. Most of those places are forgotten, hidden between mountains, buried deep inside forests, or sealed behind stories people refuse to tell. This valley is one of them. It doesn't appear on modern maps. Satellite images show nothing but fog between two jagged cliffs. But locals know it exists. They just refuse to go near it. They call it the Valley of Death. And according to the stories, anyone who enters the valley never comes back. Of course, stories like that only attract one kind of person: curious people. And that's exactly what brought 5 hikers to the valley entrance on a cold autumn afternoon. They had traveled deep into a remote mountain range after hearing rumors about the place. A hidden valley, unexplored, untouched, and supposedly cursed. The group stood silently at the entrance. Towering cliffs rose on both sides like prison walls. Dark clouds drifted slowly across the sky above them, and the valley ahead stretched into darkness. One of the hikers laughed nervously. Looks like a horror movie setting. Nobody disagreed, but curiosity pushed them forward, and within minutes, they crossed the entrance. None of them realized that was the last time they would ever see the outside world. The first warning didn't come from the valley. It came from an animal. A stray dog had followed the hikers for several miles through the mountains. It was friendly, curious, almost playful. But the moment they reached the valley entrance, everything changed. The dog stopped. Its ears flattened, its body stiffened. The animal stared into the valley as if something inside the fog was staring back. One of the hikers called it, "Come on, boy." But the dog refused to move. Instead, it slowly stepped backward, whining, its tail tucked tightly between its legs. Then suddenly it turned and ran, not just away from the hikers, away from the valley itself. Animals sense things humans ignore. The hikers should have paid attention, but they didn't. Because curiosity can be stronger than instinct. And by the time the fog began creeping across the valley floor, it was already too late. At first, the valley looked empty, just cracked earth stretching between towering cliffs. But the deeper they walked, the more something strange appeared on the ground. Bones, one skull, then another, then dozens. Within minutes, the hikers realized something horrifying. The valley floor wasn't scattered with bones. It was covered in them. Human skulls, ribs, spines, entire skeletons partially buried beneath dirt and rock. Some were ancient, weathered by years of exposure. Others looked disturbingly fresh. One of the hikers knelt beside a skull. He brushed dirt away from its empty eye sockets. And suddenly the scale of the discovery became clear. The valley wasn't just a graveyard. It was a mass grave. Thousands of people had died here, and none of them had ever left. The silence inside the valley was unbearable. No wind, no insects, not even the sound of birds. One of the hikers tried to break the tension. He shouted into the valley, "Hello!" The word echoed across the cliffs. The group waited. A few seconds passed. Then the valley echoed back. But the sound wasn't the same word instead. A whisper drifted through the fog. Soft, low, almost human. "Stay." The hikers froze. Nobody had said that. Nobody moved. The fog continued rolling slowly across the ground, and suddenly, the valley no longer felt empty. felt like something was listening. The mist thickened quickly. Within minutes, the hikers could barely see more than a few meters ahead. Flashlights cut narrow beams through the gray haze, and inside the fog, something moved. At first, it looked like shifting shadows, but then one of the hikers noticed something disturbing. The shapes weren't drifting, they were crawling, low shapes, dragging themselves slowly across the valley floor. The group aimed their flashlights toward the movement, but the fog swallowed the light. Whatever was inside it remained hidden. Then the whispering began. Soft voices, barely audible, coming from somewhere inside the mist, repeating the same words again and again. The valley feeds. One of the hikers stepped away from the group. He wanted a better photo of the bones scattered across the valley floor. His camera clicked several times. The fog thickened behind him. At first, nobody noticed the shadow rising inside the mist. A tall shape forming slowly from the ground itself. It stretched upward like smoke, growing darker, taller, more defined, until it stood directly behind him. The man lowered his camera. He began turning around, but before he could see what was there, the fog swallowed him. His camera fell to the ground, still recording. When the others rushed over, he was gone. Only the camera remained, and when they checked the footage later, they saw the shadow, standing behind him, watching. Panic spread quickly through the group. They decided to leave the valley immediately. But when they turned back toward the entrance, something impossible had happened. The path was gone. Where the opening between the cliffs should have been, there was only more rock, more fog, more endless valley. The hikers searched desperately, flashlights scanning the cliffs, but every direction looked the same. The valley had become a maze, and the deeper they walked, the thicker the fog grew. Then the whispers returned. But this time, they weren't random words. The voices were calling names, their names. At the center of the valley, they found the pit, a massive hole in the earth, nearly 50 meters wide, and filled completely with bones. Skulls piled higher than a house, ribs and limbs tangled together like a grotesque mountain. The fog drifted slowly upward from the pit, like smoke rising from something alive beneath the surface. The hikers stood at the edge, horrified. Then one of them noticed something. The bones were moving, not falling, not shifting, moving. Something inside the pit was breathing. The fog around the valley floor began to stir. Shapes emerged from the mist. Human shapes. Bodies dragging themselves slowly across the ground, their limbs twisted in unnatural angles, bones protruding through torn skin. Their eyes were hollow. Their mouths whispered the same words over and over. The valley feeds. Dozens of them crawled through the fog, then hundreds, all moving toward the bone pit, like insects returning to a nest. The hikers realized something terrifying. These weren't ghosts. These were the victims, and the valley had never let them leave. The bones inside the pit began collapsing inward. Skulls rolled down the sides. Ribs cracked under shifting weight. Then something enormous rose from beneath the pile. A skeletal arm, then another. Long, distorted limbs pushed through the bones, dragging an enormous body upward. Fog poured from the pit like breath, and slowly, a massive creature climbed into view. Its face remained hidden in shadow, but two glowing eyes appeared in the darkness, watching, hungry. And suddenly every crawling body stopped moving. waiting. Only one hiker was left alive. He ran, not toward an exit, just away. Behind him, the valley erupted with movement. Hundreds of crawling bodies surged forward through the fog, broken limbs dragging across the earth. The ground trembled. The creature stepped out of the pit behind them, towering above the valley, watching the chase unfold. The survivor turned once, just once, and what he saw in that moment would haunt the final recording forever. The entire valley was alive. The final footage from the camera was recovered weeks later. The surviving hiker was shaking as he held the device toward his face. His voice was barely steady. "If anyone finds this, don't come here. This place isn't a valley. It's a feeding ground." Behind him, the fog began parting. The enormous creature stepped forward through the mist. Its glowing eyes filled the camera frame. The man screamed. The camera fell to the ground, and the recording ended. Rescue teams later searched the area they found the camera, but the valley was empty. No bones, no pit, no fog, just silent cliffs. But sometimes, late at night, satellite images show something strange. A dark fog gathering between the mountains, and thousands of shapes slowly crawling across the valley floor, waiting for the next group to arrive.